fairly well known that here at MS Paints we really like our Lizardmen / Seraphon. We've done quite a few big ones so far in previous years, but today I want to look at the very humble, super humble, lowest grade of troop you can get for Lizardmen and Seraphon, and that is the skink. And we're going to do that in as short a time as possible. What's up, my movers and shakers? I'm Dave, this is MS Paints, and this is 5 Minute Skinks.
Okie dokie, so despite what you're about to see, I am not doing a slap chop on these guys. Well, kinda. With the assistance of my dry box, yeah, I know that is probably the worst name that I could have given this thing. Anyway, with the dry box, we're going to paint up our first albino lizard-style skink. Skinks are already pretty easy to do, but to get something close to that 5-minute time frame, we are going to have to take a few shortcuts. I know a lot of people won't be of the same mindset, but if I want something done quick, I'll make both creative choices and concessions beforehand as a way to get there. If I don't think that I can make something red in 5 minutes and it needs to be painted in 5 minutes, then sure as shit, I am not going to paint it red. I'm leaning towards some eventual blue pop with this skink, so I'm making a wash out of Vallejo's Express Black with some Express Medium, because this paint seems to lean really heavily blue. So I've mentioned it a few times in the past, but there's an importance to which shade of grey you use when choosing colour pop on something like this. Blue greys, and by blue grey I mean a cool leaning grey rather than a Fenrisian grey, and blue washes will help this ridiculous blue on his back sit better with the rest of his skin tone. And complementary colours will also carry you a good distance with stuff like this when you're trying to go for something as vibrant as this. With skinks, you can kind of get away with pretty much anything since lizards can look pretty fucking bonkers in the wild, but I'm doing a tried and true, tested, complementary mix. Apologies, by the way, the lenses I'm using just absolutely aren't made for things this small and this close up. So it's kind of hard to see this first skink. The other three later on are not a problem, but with this guy, I'll be honest, I just didn't know what I was doing. And as another note, anything universal like eyes and weapons, I'm going to speedrun at the end. But don't you worry, I have got my 100% legit YouTuber clock running in the background, and I'm currently at -7 minutes on this guy. So I've actually gained time while painting him. That's how that works. Skink 2 is going to be very similar, but as I mentioned about the choices of greys and off-whites, with this guy we're going to overbrush and dry brush various creamy shades of cream and bone up to white. So he's technically kind of on the other end of the colour wheel. He gets an all-over bath with Agrak's Earthshade Classic to add some recess shading, but also just to kind of warm him up a little bit. And once more, we buff his extreme edges back up to Trooper White. In opposition to the last skink, this guy is going to be orange. I saw a gecko that was white and orange once, and he looked pretty fabulous, but also looked like you wouldn't want to fuck with him. So I'm going to go white and orange with this one. I didn't manage to get a close-up of me doing it because it was way out of focus and unusable, but I have been adding little dots to the flesh around the coloured spines, and I think it helps ease out the transition a little bit. I'm kind of undecided, maybe it looks complete bollocks, I don't know, but it's subtle enough that I'm not going to worry about it. I've forgotten it's there already.
Come on down to the Squarespace website and Emporium. What's up, guys? Tony D here, turning tricks and making quips, and I'm here to talk to you today about today's sponsor, Squarespace. Have you ever thought to yourself, man, what I need is a website all about me? Sure I do. I'm an egomaniac all the time. Well, now you can with Squarespace's browser-based web designer that's easy to use and comes preloaded with an unsettling amount of templates from award-winning designers just to get you started. Along with that, the templates cover blogs, guestbooks. Are guestbooks still a thing? Online stores. Portfolio. And speaking of online stores, if you've ever wanted to do business like the pros and have your own online store, well, now you can, with no commission or skim from the provider. Along with that, you can also add your store's existing EPOS system to the site to have your inventory ready to go. And of course, we gotta mention that domain acquisition tab, guys. Oh, it's my favorite part. Tony's favorite thing ever. Want a name for your website? Sure. Head on over to this tab, type in the domain and the name you want to go for, and immediately connect it to the name and the stuff and the rest of the world. And it's just that easy, guys. It's just that easy. So come on down to squarespace.com/MSPaints and use the code MSPaints at checkout to save yourself 10% off your first website subscription or domain. All right, bene.
Okay, skink number 3, and arguably potentially my least favorite of the 4 that I'm doing, but we're going for a black skink. So black prime, dry brush on some highlights with grey, then crush it all down with a dark grey speed paint. And then using a light grey to sketch some of those sharper details back in. And then with a pure white, we're going to put on some tribal markings. So I say tribal, it's kind of Game Boy Advance tribal. It's Ace Ventura 2 tribal. It's The Exorcist 2, The Heretic tribal. It's Kamala and Kimchi tribal. I think what I'm trying to get at is that I didn't do much research, if any here, and just painted some white body paint on there. But, however, most importantly, that is another skink in the can. I think this guy was maybe like 3 minutes. Sticking with the same shtick as before, we're absolutely shithousing some unmixed sentient turquoise on this guy and building up through the color triad to an almost kind of, well, I mean, a ghoul green. I saw another gecko once, and he was pretty green, and he looked a lot friendlier than the other gecko, but he still looked like he might be poisonous, so I didn't bother with that guy. Then mixing some of that ghoul green and white together, we make ourselves a minty toothpaste kind of color we can use to sketch back on some of the highlights to bring out the lips and brow. I'm using a dotted motion for some of this, since that kind of looks a little bit air quote tribal, but also a little bit lizardy. And Duncan kindly sent me a radioactive semen sample to try out, so I'm going to paint this toxic little bastard schmickle dorsal fins with this colour and see what happens. And fuck me, that is bright. That is some Herbert West reagent stuff right there. Now, for the universal finishing touches, and my YouTuber clock that I've kept beside me for this 5-minute challenge now says it's actually 1934, so I'm actually 90 years ahead of my deadline with this video, so it's going well, guys. Simple things like eyes are just a desaturated green, and then Duncan's radioactive waste green to dot the highlight in there. Stabby bits and gold decorations are just a coat of a metallic paint with a light wash over the top. Teeth and claws are just Rakarth flesh with a Reichland flesh shade over the top. Really nuts and bolts stuff. Base coat and wash all the way for all of these accessories. Life is too short for highlighting teeth, if you ask me. And here we are. Oh, I finally got the camera in focus. Yeah, I think they look all right. I think the most important takeaway from this is that if you make both concessions and choices with stuff that you want painted fast, you can absolutely smash it out. Don't be afraid to go off script or even someone else's script when it comes to painting your minis. These are far from perfect, however they are done. If you discount drying times, I'd say each one is hands-on time, about 5 to 7 minutes a piece. I don't count time like eating noodles or watching wrestling as time spent working, so yeah, I will say 5 to 7 minutes. If you're interested in how my big dinosaurs were made, check out the links at the end screen, and if you're interested to see how we made the funky jungle bases for them, click on the floating link above or wait till the end screen. Thank you to my wonderful Patreon community. I am very much looking forward to seeing you all soon for the MS Paint Secret Santa, organised by the wonderful Paddy Mick. Until next time, Charles, I'm out of here.